Some of the topics that we intend to cover are fundamental readiness of precious metals laboratories for ISO IEC 17025 accreditation. That presentation will be made by Mr. Pankaj Deshmukh from MMTC PAMP. It will be followed by factors affecting cupellation loss of gold and silver beads from low-grade material. This is a presentation from the Chief Assayer of RAND Refinery, Madam Makhosazana Sikhakhane. She is a Chief Assayer of RAND Refinery. Third presentation would be from a National Physical Laboratory person in charge of developing the reference materials. The topic of that will be quality assurance in gold testing through BNDs. BNDs is a short form for what in English we can call it as Indian reference material. The last presentation in this part is Hallmarking of Gold Jewellery in India, regulatory perspective, from Mr. Chandan of Bureau of Indian Standards. With this, let me introduce Mr. Pankaj Deshmukh of MMTC PAMP India Limited. Mr. Pankaj Deshmukh is the head of Assay Laboratory at MMTC PAMP India Private Limited, India's first and only LBMA good delivery refinery for both gold and silver. He's been leading the laboratory since 2010 and brings over 23 years of extensive experience in assaying and examination of precious metals and alloys. Mr. Pankaj Deshmukh holds a master's degree in MSc, Master of Science degree, in Analytical Chemistry from North Maharashtra University. Under his leadership, the lab maintains its LBMA Good Delivery accreditation along with ISO 17025 and BIS certifications. He is also involved in training through the Precious Metals Assay Training Institute of India, short form PMATI, we all know about it. This was an institute promoted by World Gold Council for spreading awareness and information on technology in this country, and represents MMTC PAMP on technical committees responsible for setting standards for precious metals in India. Prior to MMTC PAMP, Mr. Pankaj Deshmukh held leadership roles at Johnson Matthey, India, and began his career as an assayer at Shirpur Gold Refinery. With this introduction, it is our pleasure to introduce, with a warm round of applause, Mr. Pankaj Deshmukh of MMTC PAMP.
Okay, good afternoon. So today's topic, as what I explained, that fundamental readiness of laboratories, precious metal laboratories, because we are talking about precious metal field, for ISO IEC 17035 2017 accreditation in India. What we are going to see basically in this presentation, first we'll have a introduction of the standard, then we'll go for the, we'll understand the requirements of standard, then we'll have the documentations we understood, we will try to understand what kind of documentation is required, then we'll go for the, what is the role of personnel in the overall accreditation, then we'll touch down the testing and calibration procedures for the laboratories which is required for this accreditation. Then we are taking the care for the internal audits and management reviews and their importance, and then preparation of external audits, and then final the conclusions. So basically I am representing from MMTC PAMP, who is one of the only refinery of India who is having LBMA accreditation for gold and silver. And we are involved in a lot of different portfolios, right from government stakeholders to different products, B2B sector, even have the digital and physical channels. And again, MMTC PAMP put India on the global map for the precious metal by starting a lot of initiatives in the precious metal field. And part of that, as what's in the morning, I explained that we are supporting this kind of technical assaying and refining seminars. So why we are discussing the today's subjects which we are in the presentation? So if you imagine, just imagine this kind of picture in your laboratory. Either you hire the more advocates, or either you maintain the quality in your laboratory. Choice is ours. I prefer that we should maintain the choice quality, and that's why we are discussing these subjects here. So what is the requirements and how ISO 17025 2017 is going to impact? So we are touching down what ISO 7025 is for. But basically, ISO IEC 17025 2017 sets the requirements for the laboratories competency for the technical field. It's a testing as well as calibration laboratories. When we say the competency of testing and the testing and calibration laboratories, it involves in every kind of management and technical requirements of the laboratory for the standards. Then what is the importance for precious metal laboratories? When we have this accreditation in precious metal laboratories, it basically enhances your credibility among all the stakeholders. Whether it's your customers, whether it's banks, whether it's a bullion, whether it's all the international accreditation bodies. So your credibility naturally enhances when you have this accreditation. As we are in precious metal field, our results are very much important for the final settlement, for the quality of the product. On that aspect, the accreditation of ISO 17025 for precious metal matters. So what we are going to discuss today, we are trying to understanding the critical components of ISO 17025. Then we are going to focus on the importance of the system which we have put for the compliance. We are again discussing what we have to do for the maintaining accreditation. And overall on that, I am trying to explore that how this accreditation is not only a part of compliance, but it will enhance your credibility throughout the globe. That's my purpose for this. Requirements, we will try to understand the requirements. First we go for the what basically this standard involves. There are the management responsibilities, there are the technical requirements, there are the infrastructure requirements, as well as there are some resources requirement which standard states about. So when we are saying management requirements, basically it talks about the governance of all the laboratory, how you have implemented the system, who will be the managing authority, who are the people who are having signing authorities, what will be a quality management system, what will be the documentation, how you will keeping the record controls, how you will have the risk assessments, all those things will fall under the management responsibilities. When we are saying technical responsibilities, technical requirements basically covers personnel competency. We are again going to touch it in detail for the personnel competency. Then the accuracy and precision of the testing and accreditation methods. Then validity and reliability of your tests, calibration methods. The equipment management. When I am saying equipment, it as per standard, it covers all those things, including CRM and all those things. And then under the method validation, verification. All those things ensures your high quality and high precision of your laboratory processes, which generally clause 5 and clause 7 and clause 6 covers basically technical requirements. Infrastructure, when we are talking about infrastructure, there are structural requirements which states about the overall organization structure, organogram, what is the role of laboratory, where laboratory stands overall in the organization flowchart. Then there are resources requirement which talks about the personnel, adequate facilities, the calibrated equipments and all those things. As long as scope of this standard, it covers all the testing and calibration laboratories of every field. Then we are going to cover the pre-assessment. When we decide that we are going for ISO 17025 standard accreditation, then we should have a basic fundamental readiness assessment. So in that we will see that what are the criteria we are going to set for this readiness assessment. First we are going to see what are the ISO requirements which is applicable, which we are going to discuss. Then we have the systematic analysis of capabilities of that laboratory who is deciding for going that ISO 17025 accreditation. Then the identification of necessary improvements which are necessary for laboratory to get that accreditation from accreditation body. What kind of self-assessment tools we can use? We can use for the checklist, we can use for the gap analysis, which will give us the exact picture of laboratory, where we are standing, what kind of improvements we need before facing the main assessment. Then the role of internal audits, definitely when we are going for internal audit, it will give you a detailed idea about laboratory's fundamental preparedness. How much your laboratory is ready for the accreditation. If is there any kind of gray areas which we need to improve, we can improve with the help of these internal audits. Then what kind of documentation Definitely there are set procedures, set documents mentioned in the standard, which talks about the quality manual, which states about the overall laboratory process. Then again the policy statements which define with the responsibility of management. Then we have the standard operating procedure which we call SOPs, work instructions, and different records and for the maintaining this all kind of documentation system. Then as mentioned, the quality manual and procedures which sets the overall procedure of your laboratory. Then record keeping practices. A good record keeping practices basically gives you a very good picture when you are facing assessment, because records are the objective evidences which usually assessors looks for. That maintain the calibration record, testing results, any training logs, all those things comes under the record keeping. Personnel has a very critical and important role in the accreditation, as we are talking about the competency of the laboratory, and this whole standard is based on the laboratory competency. So where personnel has a very critical role. So for that, management has to very clear that what kind of personnel you require, what will be their requirement for qualification, what will be their training, skills, and all those things as per standard requirement, that to be identified and documented, and accordingly the selection of personnel need to be done. Then what is the role of personnel in laboratory? The whole effectiveness of this whole system, whole accreditation depends on that person. If he is competent, if he is well qualified, he is well experienced, then this accreditation will, the job of accreditation will be very easy for him. Then it's not only one-time activity that you have trained him and you have given the authority and he is the quality manager or testing manager and your job is over. No. Continuous improvement also plays a very important role. So time to time you have to provide the trainings. You need to keep the records for all the trainings. You need to monitor, you need to supervise, and also timely you have to take part in all the continuous professional development of your personnel for this accreditation. Then testing procedures, obviously testing, all the testing procedures should have a standard operating procedures and work instructions, all kind of technical records should be there, which will help you to enhance the credibility of your accreditation process. Then the equipment maintenance and the calibration management, you should have a schedule, you should have a timely maintenance and calibration of each and every equipment which is having direct, indirect role on your measurement processes. Detailed calibration protocols should be documented for your own laboratory, because every laboratory will have their own different methods, and accordingly they need to document their requirement for that, and which need to be followed stringently. Verification and validation of method. If you are using standard method, then no need of validation, but verification of method equally important. But if you are having some modification in your standard method, then definitely you need to go for the method validation, which required again a stringent statistical data, and basis on the data only you need to confirm that that method is suitable for the intended use. Then internal audit and MRM, as I told, the management of organization has a very critical role in the overall accreditation process, and by doing the internal audit, the management actually came to know that where are the pitfalls for laboratory, where are the gray areas where they need improvement, where are the non-conformance in present system, which can be discussed in the MRM. We have a set procedure for MRM standard where clearly defines that what kind of points you need to discuss in the MRM, because MRM is one of the golden opportunity for the top management to review whole processes for their laboratory, where they can see where laboratory stands, where they need improvement, where they have done good, where they are the non-conformance, what is their proficiency testing, standing score, Z score, and all those things can be discussed in management review meeting. That's why these both things in management point of views are very critical and very important. Then preparation. Once you done with all the documentation, internal audit, MRM, and all those things, then there are basically, you need to understand what kind of assessment process generally accreditation bodies are providing. So there are basically, when external assessment body comes, they offer you whether if you want a pre-assessment, it's a totally optional, and pre-assessment can give you idea that where actually your system is based on the accreditation body point of view. So that gives you a a clear picture of your laboratory, whether your documentation systems, MRM, internal audits, testing methods, calibration on other technical records are up to the mark, and now you can face to the main audit. So that way your pre-assessment can help to the laboratory. Then engagement with the assessor. Usually what happens whenever it's a human tendency, whenever we have audit or assessments, we always have a nervousness as auditee, and whenever you see assessor, because I'm also assessor for ISO 17025 and witnesses a lot of Indian laboratories for this kind of accreditation, and a lot of auditee faces nervousness. I don't know why they feel that nervousness by seeing us. We don't have that much ugly face, but then still they have, you know, that kind of fear in their mind. So I need to just request them that they need to engage with the assessor. They need to understand what is the requirement of their laboratory system, what is the requirement of standard, because assessor is not going to assess that laboratory beyond these requirements. He has very clear guidelines from standard, he has very clear guidelines from that accreditation body, and he has clear guidelines from your own management system, which is quality manual and SOPs. Beyond that, he is not going to assess your laboratory. So you, being owner of your laboratory, being the owner of your accreditation system, you need to be very much confident. You need to face confidently the assessor, because he is there for 2 days, but you are owner of your own system for 365 into 7, right? So you need to be actively you need to be actively collaboration with the assessor. Whatever they are asking for, any objective evidences, you need to show them, you need to face their questions, because it's your competency. You show your competency and they will gain that confidence. Okay, this system is okay, and this is, the system is in the right hands, laboratory is in the right hands, and that way the calibration and the requirement of this ISO IEC 17025 will be maintained. So that confidence as a laboratory person you need to provide to the assessor. Then there is a transparent communication with the assessor. Usually I face that whenever we ask for any objective evidence, that person goes off. Then the next person, we are waiting for 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Then we have to again ask, please show that out, you know. So this is not a right way. You need to face them. You need to understand what is the clear requirement, what actually he is asking. Before that, then you need to understand why that particular document is maintained, what is the importance of that document in your accreditation process. It's not the requirement of that assessor. It's the requirement of system for your own benefit, for the benefit of your laboratory. So you need to understand always this. The assessment is for your improvement, assessment is for your betterment, assessment is for your organization, not for NABL or not for any another kind of accreditation bodies who are giving this kind of accreditations. As long as my experience in ISO 17025 as an assessor, there are some common pitfalls which laboratory should always avoid. It's always challenges during which we faces always challenges during assessment, and so laboratory are like incomplete documentation. Most of the laboratory don't understand the importance of that particular documents. Just for sake of maintain, they are just maintaining some one document, and we have always two choices. First is just go through that document which is giving a basic, fulfilling basic requirement of that standard. But as a technical person, as a technical assessor, somewhere in mind we always see that there is no importance of that document, the way they are maintaining. They need to first understand why that document is being given by the standard, what is the importance of the maintaining that document, and what are the role of that document, direct, indirect, on your final end product, which is your test results, which you are going to give. In our precious metal field, laboratory has a very critical role, and we always need to keep this in your mind. The power which signing authority has, it is not given to CEO of your organization. So the signing authority of your laboratory is the wholesale person on whose shoulder the quality of laboratory, quality of your product, quality of your organizations are wholesale dependent. So he should feel that I am very much confident, I am going to face these assessments, I am going to show my all the system to these external bodies, and that way I am trying to make them confident as I am. So another pitfall basically are for the they never go for the proactive, approach when go for the accreditations, as also internal audits, MRM. Just for the for maintaining, they just maintain one document. As soon as we see that document, we see that it's just a fake document that just maintaining. They have signed off and they have shown that MRM has conducted on so and so days, and internal audit has done been so and so, and the person who is having the technical in charge, he is again his own system, he is auditing his own system. They are not following the right way. So these are not the right things. Then again, the training part is one of the main pitfall which I always assessed in the assessment. The training, as I mentioned, that once you got trained, to Ganga naha liya, wo nahi hoga. That's not the way. You need to upgrade yourself, you need to upgrade your system, you need to upgrade your knowledge. Time to time, you need to also upgrade. What are the requirements change in that standard? What are the requirements change in the accreditation body? So we, as a technical person, as a technical manager, as a quality manager, you need to be up to date on all these requirements. So these are particularly common pitfalls which we have discussed. So as we see in that, there are a lot of things which standard has a requirement, put as a requirement on the quality management system, which we call QMS, the quality manual, SOPs, work instructions, the technical records, the way you are maintaining technical records in your laboratory, the calibration system for your own equipments and all those things, the training records, training of your personnel, the knowing their training need identifications, and all such things plays a very important role in case of these accreditations. Then ongoing compliances, achieving ISO accreditation is not the end point, but it's a journey. When you got first accreditation, the journey starts, and you need to sustain in that journey, and time to time you need to get upgrade on all the requirements. You need to maintain yourself with the requirements of standard as well as accreditation body as well as your own system. What should be the future steps for laboratories? So laboratories should develop ongoing training programs, as I mentioned, then conduct regular reviews of their quality management system, and remain engaged with the changes, whatever ISO timely asks time to time, the accreditation body asks time to time, which we need to be upgrade and we need to be engaged. By that, you will really maintain the ISO 17025 accreditation in a very good way. That's from my side. Thank you. Any questions?
A round of applause for finishing on time. We have time for one question.
Yeah, hi, thank you. So, what the point you have said are generic. Can you just give us some idea, some examples? So when you say ongoing training programs, what should be frequency of training and training on what areas? When you say they are not ready, what sort of documentation? At least, so for a non-initiated, it will give an idea. Otherwise, what you are saying is that you should maintain proper document, you should do guidance, you should not be afraid of. So if you can share some practical example without giving the name of the laboratories, so that will help us understand.
Okay.
Some very specific example, very specific.
Being an assessor of NABL, I cannot take the name of any laboratory.
No, as I said,
I will share the examples.
We don't require the name. Yeah, kindly give us specific examples.
Like when I say training, so people used to say that only one document usually we see is a training record where they have mentioned IS 1418 2019, and that training is implemented to everyone. Internal training. That's also internal. What Chetan bhai said, absolutely right. That's only internal. Is it the only part in the laboratory that you need to get trained? Is it the only part? No. It's a lot of QMS is there, which you need to take care for. Other technical records are there. Other systems are there, which you really need to. This we came to know when we go for the, assessment of that person to whom, we are going to assess his competency. When we interview him, it's not formal interview. So, it's a question answers, and he never know that we are interviewing him. His confidence, his answers gives us that idea, gives it that confidence whether his training is, imparted or not. First thing. But training, it's not only, I'm just giving the example of training. It starts from the training need identification, TNA. Training need identification or training need assessment. Most of the lab even don't know. That if you are hiring person, before hiring that person, you need to understand what is your requirement. What is the requirement of your system? Whether you require BSc person, whether you require 12th pass, whether you require MSc, whether you require the unique kind of... Tomorrow you cannot have any person who is having a pharma giant, 30 years of experience, you suddenly put in the precious metal laboratory to sign. No, you can't. So you need to define first training need identification, what is his qualification, what is requirement, what kind of skills he will have, what kind of training he has undergone. Then you will appoint him for the first few days, months, basis on his skills, you will put him under supervision, you will train him. That training plan should be there, training schedule should be there. What time, what things you are going to taught him. How he is doing, you have to supervise it. Once you feel that now he is competent, you are giving some authority. That authority matrix should be there. That so and so person will do only XRF, so and so person will only do fire assay, like that. One person cannot do anything in just 3 months and all that, right? So that's the training need identification, training plan, training schedule, supervision records, monitoring records. Once you feel that now he is competent, you are given certain things, you also timely need to monitor his performance. That monitoring comes in the picture. And wherever you feel that now he is having some this gray area, again you put for the training record. Like that, the series of documents comes in the picture, and this is very beautifully pictured in the ISO 17025 requirement as well as NABL guidelines. There is on NABL's website, there are a lot of documents on free. You can download, you can go through all the documents very clearly. They have mentioned what kind of requirements on there, right? I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. Yeah? You have a question?
Also, I see you're on the 2017 version. I just wanted to find out how different is it from the previous one?
The previous version was 2005. It difference in basically in 2005, the most of the standards are not covering the risk assessment part. 2017 version mostly goes for the risk assessment. Everything laboratory, every activity laboratory does, there is having some kind of risk. That risk assessment is taken care by in the 2017 version. That's the main major differences. Otherwise, clause are, just they have different 6, 7, 5 and all that. But that was the major difference. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Pankaj. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
A round of applause once again. Thank you.
That was an excellent beginning for the afternoon session. Next, we are very pleased to have the Chief Assayer from RAND Refinery, Madam Makhosazana Sikhakhane. Madam Makhosazana Sikhakhane is a Chief Assayer at RAND Refinery, one of the world's leading precious metals refining and assaying facilities based in Germiston, South Africa. As Chief Assayer, she oversees the rigorous gold assaying process, which involves advanced techniques such as fire assaying and X-ray fluorescence to ensure the highest standards of purity and quality for refined bullion. Her role is critical in maintaining RAND Refinery's status as an LBMA good delivery referee, not refiner, referee, guarding the integrity and transparency of the global gold market through comprehensive testing and certification procedures. Madam Sikhakhane leads a team that handles thousands of assays daily, ensuring that each batch complies with stringent LBMA and international standards. She's going to talk about factors affecting cupellation loss of gold and silver beads from low-grade material. Please join us in welcoming Madam Makhosazana Sikhakhane.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name once again is Makhosazana Sikhakhane, and I'm really excited about the work that my team and I have done on cupellation loss for gold and silver milligram beads from low-grade smelter material. Over the past year, my team and I have worked tirelessly to study and unpack the factors affecting the milligram losses of gold and silver on the low-grade smelter material in order to try and optimize our analytical process for the gain of our customers and RAND Refinery. As someone who thrives on attention to detail, I've dedicated myself to understanding these factors, and I am thrilled to share our findings. Fire assay, as we would all know, is an ancient technique dating back to biblical times as far back as 3000 BC. The art of fire assaying was rekindled in the 16th century and later perfected to a reference standard that is now used by governments, mints, refineries, and laboratories all over the world. So on my agenda, we'll go through the smelter process, the overview, cupellation process, factors affecting the losses, the test protocol, why the losses of noble metals, comparison of results, the highlights, conclusion, acknowledgement, and lastly, we'll go through our Q&A. Just by show of hands, how many of us here are from the laboratories or are relying on results from the labs? So this is just the survey that was conducted by Madeleine at the LBMA conference in March this year. The question that was posed was for the participants to indicate if they do apply loss corrections for gold and silver. Interesting to see that 17% of the participants indicated that they do not apply any loss corrections for the gold and silver. 5% indicated they do apply the corrections only for gold. 8% indicated that they apply the loss corrections for silver, and the majority, 70%, indicated that they do apply the correction application for both the gold and silver. So this is a very interesting phenomenon, and it's comforting to see that it's industry-wide. So Rand Refinery is a single-site refinery and smelter operations, with the smelter operations being one of our critical components. Now, talking to the smelter, because that is the point of focus in my discussion today, we receive deposits from our customers. Bullion material goes to the refinery, and the mining byproducts, refinery sweeps, our in-house generated refinery sweeps go to the smelter operations. That is why we classify it as low-grade material. These material that we treat at Rand Refinery, we treat over 100 different types of material, with the gold ranging anything between 1 gram per ton to over 15,000 grams per ton. Silver ranging anything between 1 gram per ton and over 27,000 grams per ton. The sample throughput on a monthly basis is over 10,000. This is because of the dual stream analysis that we do. So you can imagine with such a high number of throughputs that the cost of analysis is very high, looking at the consumables and the reagents that we use. So it is because of this high cost of analysis and the sample throughput that we decided to look into ways to optimize our process, optimize our analytical process to see if we cannot come up with a single factor. I'll explain the details later. So as we would know, fire assay, historically, it's well documented. At the bottom there, I've just put in a few references. But what we aimed to do in our test work was to see if we can quantify these losses, obviously related to the low-grade precious materials, and utilizing synthetic alloys, high-purity synthetic alloys, to try and mimic the samples as closely as possible, with the hope that we can better understand the dynamics at play. So the cupellation process, just to take you back a few steps. Low-grade smelter material goes through a number of processes. The initial step in the process is the fusion process, where the sample, the powder sample, is mixed with the flux, which is lead-based, the lead being the main collector of precious metals. At the end of the fusion process, you remain with the metallic lead that is separated from the slag, cleaned and hammered into this beautiful cube that you see there. So the next phase of the process, which is cupellation, that is where now we try, now that the silver has served its purpose of collecting the precious metals, the cupellation process aims now to get rid of the lead and the impurities present in that lead button. So if you look at the picture, you'll see we've got cupels. These are the specialized crucibles that we use that are porous, that are designed to absorb the molten lead oxide and the base metal oxides. So that's the whole point of having this process. It's the separation of precious metals from the lead and impurities. This involves the heating of the sample at high temperature in the presence of air and inside the preheated cupels. So what happens is, because of the heat, the lead will melt, and because of the air, that facilitates the oxidation process. It will oxidize to form the lead oxide. The same with the base metals. They will oxidize to form base metals oxides, which are then absorbed by the cupel, and some of them will volatilize. At the end of the process, you will remain with a coherent bead of precious metals that remains at the surface of the cupel. This is because the surface of the cupel serves as a membrane. It is permeable to the molten lead oxide and base metals. Now let's talk about the factors affecting the losses during the cupellation process. Extraction flow. It's important that you regulate the air going into your furnace. So by design, our cupellation furnace have got an exhaust box and a butterfly valve. That system is designed to regulate the air and the gas flow within the furnace. If it's too high, it will negatively impact your losses in precious metals. The cupellation selection. In our case, we mainly use the magnesium oxide cupels. It's important that you know the quality of your cupel and the makeup of your cupels, because this, if it's not checked, if it's not monitored, it will affect your losses significantly. Past 2 years, we had an incident where our cupels were brittle. They would crack inside the furnace, leading to the absorption, like very high losses of gold and silver. So what we did during that period was to look at the good quality ones, took them to the XRF for analysis, and we were able to establish the baseline for our cupels. We checked also the bad quality ones. We realized that they had a lot of silica in it. So ever since then, we decided to have a quality check of our cupels, now that we had established our baseline. So on a monthly basis, or each time we receive a new batch of cupels, we just take it through to the XRF for analysis to see if it's acceptable. And ever since then, we've never really had problems with our cupels. In terms of temperature, the temperature has to be high enough to be effective, but if it goes way higher, then you will also suffer great losses in terms of your precious metals losses. Time control is the same. You need to make sure that your procedure stipulates the duration, and you have to stick to it. If it goes longer, then you will definitely suffer the losses of precious metals. The types of alloys also may have an impact in the losses, because if it's a material that is very high in base metals, and the process of cupellation involves the oxidation, the absorption, and the volatilization. If you have a lot of base metals, in my head I'm thinking of a tsunami effect. If that happens, it will then tag along the precious metals with, compared to materials that are just high in precious metals. The last aspect is the analyst, and I'm glad that my previous speaker mentioned, in terms of competency, the analyst, the work is as good as the person who's doing it. So we invest a lot of time training our people, assessing them and deeming them competent. In terms of the frequency, we decided to stipulate in our policy that our people, we train them at this. So you need to say how frequent, and when you're audited, you need to show that you are sticking to your own procedure. So it cannot be for the auditor to tell you. And then in terms of test protocol, can you just pause it? In terms of test protocol, we focused on our standard operating procedure. So it's not a universal, it's specific to Rand Refinery, our lab. And we looked at the vast material that we treated Rand. The variables included temperature variation, plus minus 10 degrees Celsius. So you will set your furnace at a set temperature, and we used an independent probe that is calibrated to just verify that it is what it says it is. The cupellation size, we use mainly cupel size number 9 and 10. This is just the terminology used by the supplier, one being one size smaller or bigger than the other, but they're exactly the same thing. From this test work, the lead buttons that we obtained were between 40 and 70 grams. The alloy composition, in terms of gold, our masses range between 0 and 670 milligrams. Silver masses varied from 0 to 2,000 milligrams. And because we know that the lead button contains impurities, and copper is one of them, and we have copper present as a high purity, we decided to add the copper as to mimic or as an impurity. The test work was done by different analysts. Different cupellation furnaces were used. So we did, it's over a year that we've been doing this work. The aim being to see what we have accurately weighed, taken through the process of the fire assay, versus what we recover, what are we going to see? So if you look at the results, if you look at the gold, this is the gold that we weighed and recorded versus the gold that we recovered. If you look at our regression equation, we got 0.99688, meaning we established the linearity, the factor of 0.9968. So it means if we were getting y equals x, then we would know that what we started with is exactly what we recovered. But that was not the case with the gold. We saw some slight losses of gold. So our recovery rate was over 99.6. So we had established that factor with the hope that if we use this factor, we will then be able, we will use this factor to account for the gold losses. The same test was done for the silver. So your X is the silver that we accurately weighed, and we've taken it through the entire smelter assay process. On our Y-axis, this is the silver that we recovered. Our regression gave us Y equals 0.969, showing that we are seeing not significant, but higher losses of silver relative to the gold. The factor that we established for the silver was 0.969. So our silver recovery was over 96.3%, and we decided that, okay, maybe we can, if we use this factor, we can account for the silver losses during our fire assay process. So why the losses of noble metals? As people would say, they don't oxidize. But we've seen that they do oxidize. So in terms of silver, we established the factor of 0.969, the gold 0.9968, obviously showing that there's differences in terms of oxidation rates between the two metals. Silver, we've seen that we are seeing more, it oxidizes more rapidly than gold, and that because of that, it is prone to absorption and volatilization. We've seen that gold also experiences less oxidation, hence we've seen much greater recoveries of gold. So if we look at these reports, so now that we had established a factor for gold and silver, what we did was to take a few refinery sweep samples and distribute to 4 other international LPMA accredited laboratories for analysis. And from all the samples that...
So theoretically, if you just take pure gold and melt it in a cupel, will there be some losses as well? Like you take pure gold, just heat it in a furnace in a cupel without lead or anything, and just it melts and it solidifies back
without lead?
Yeah.
If you keep it long enough, it's one of those factors. If your temperature is uncontrolled, if there's your airflow is uncontrolled, yes, you will.
Okay, and what do you do with the used cupels?
So everything at Rand Refinery is recycled. From the crucibles that we use for fusion, the slag that we get, it all gets recycled. It goes back into the smelter as a refinery sweep. So yeah. So nothing gets discarded. Everything is recycled back into the system, including the solutions that we use for the parting.
Yeah, Makhosazana, I had one question.
Yes.
Thanks for all the wonderful presentation. I can sense the efforts you have put. You have not touched about what kind of fluxes you are using.
So because the topic meant to talk about the losses during cupellation.
Okay.
But just to give you some background on the flux that we use, we are mainly lead collecting. We don't do nickel sulfide.
Okay.
We do lead flux,
Okay.
contains about 55% of your lead oxide.
Okay.
It contains silica.
Okay.
It contains carbonate.
Carbonate.
Yes, it contains borax. It contains ketosol.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the flux that we use. But because now our material type is so vast, we've got our premix flux that we get from our supplier, but we also have our litharge, we also have our silica powder that we would add on the side. We also have borax that we'd have. So because our samples go through XRF and LICO for first before we can do the fire assay, we are able to then establish if it's this high in silica, then in addition to our flux, we need to add carbonate. So the dynamics would differ. If it's high in iron, we know what else to add. So we always depend on the results that we get from XRF to see what else we need to add into our flux.
Ma'am, one question. This is not in this presentation, but related to that in smelter you are treating some gold, right? Which is
Yes.
you're saying. So what kind of gold concentrate, that is refractory gold or is a free milling gold?
We are recovering gold from your waste, from your waste, from your byproducts, depending on what your processes are, whatever that you get from your products
So
as your.
Your smelter is not treating gold concentrate, right? It's only waste material.
If I can help there, in terms of the mine products that do come through, we take mill concentrates. When you mill the gold, whatever gold that remains in the SAG mill, when it gets cleaned up, it is given to us because the mines themselves are the ones that treat that ore into a product. So all their byproducts, whether be it a sulfide, whether be it an ore, if it meets our incoming stream, which is 10 ounces per ton, at 300 grams per ton, that is what our intake does. So we don't treat, the 1 gram per ton is part of our recycle stream that we've got capability, but for financial reasons, from the sourcing team, that from the intake, we take as low as 10 ounces per ton.
Okay, all right. So on this slide, so what we did after establishing the factors was to take the refinery sweeps to either 4 international LBMA accredited labs. So on this, the very first report on your left, this is the number of samples that we did sent to other international labs. And this is, so Rand Refinery has been in existence for over 100 years, and we've got our historical way of doing analysis, where for every fire we would run a check sample. So with every fire that we would do, for every material that we have, we would do a test sample just to account for the losses, so that we are able to calculate back the losses and factor the losses into our calculation. That process seeked to take longer. So, but still, what we did was to take the samples to other 4 laboratories. And if you look at the robust average of all the samples, the gold was 7,063 grams per ton. And if you look at the Z-scores below, all the labs achieved a Z-score of less than 2, which means their processes are fit for purpose. So no problems there. We've been competent in this analysis for hundreds of years, and that is our historical way of doing things. So what we did now with the new factor was to take the same samples and apply our new factor corrections on our analysis. So on this report in the middle, what you see is the same samples that we sent, but for our calculations this time around, we applied the new factors. If you look at the robust now average, it changed to 7,078. So for the gold, so we are happy with the historical way of how we were doing things, doing check samples, taking the whole day to do the analysis. Now with the, this one where we applied the new factor, what we found was that the average, the robust average of all the labs changed to 728 grams per ton. And if you look at the Z-scores, with our calculation using the new factor, you can see we're still comparing very, very well with the other labs. We achieved a Z-score of less than 1, showing that we might be onto something. This factor might just work for us. And we're talking about not 1 sample, but we're talking about 33 refinery sweeps material. On the last report on your right, what you see is our original historic way of calculation versus the new factor calculation. What you see here is so what we got was the absolute difference, historical and the new factor, of 2 grams per ton, which was, in essence, what you can see is that our historical way of doing things versus the new factor, it doesn't have a significant difference. And if you look at the outlier plot now, where we just looked at all the replicates, including the ones from the new factor, the ones that are circled are the data points from the new factor calculation. This is the Grubbs outlier to exclude outliers if there's any. So from this data, we didn't have any outliers, and the new factor calculation seems to be sitting nicely in the middle. The same test, if you look at the silver, our historic way of doing things, comparing with other labs, if you look at the Z-score, we run Refinery, we lab number 5. If you look at the Z-score, we compared very well. It means that our method was fit for purpose. This is the historic way. And then moving to the new factor, where we applied the factor on our calculation, we still got a very good Z-score, showing that even this new factor calculation is just as effective. If you look at the summary report where we looked at our historic way and the new factor calculation, because it's silver, it might look like it's a big shift, but remember, we're talking about silver ranging between, going over 27,000 grams per ton. So the absolute difference of the original historical way versus the new factor was 96 grams per ton. If you look at the Grubbs outlier graph, you do see that the new factor results, if you look at all the replicates of the samples that we did, is sitting in the middle of the data set, and none of the results were rejected, meaning all of them were acceptable. To further validate this new factor, what we did was to take 4,681 data points, old data points that we've reported. So what we did was to just take all that data, because you do have your aliquot mass, bullion, and the recovered sponge. So we applied now the new factor calculation just to see how it will compare with the historical data that we reported. If you look at the gold, if you look at the histogram, visually, you can see that we were spot on in terms of the checks, no significant difference. And the overall average difference between the historical way and the new factor was 2.05. Over 95% of the differences lied within 10 grams per ton. So our gold range, our factor was then reviewed, and we felt there's no significant difference, and we can actually run with this single factor application. Same with the silver. The 4,881 data points, we applied the new factor calculation just to see how we were going to compare with the historical method. What you see on the histogram visually, you can see we're having excellent check with no significant difference between our historical calculation and the new factor calculation. The overall differences was 1.63, and over 90% of the differences lied within 20 grams per ton, which is a very little difference when we consider the ranges of silver. Therefore, the silver factor, the silver was reviewed, and this applied to this range. So what are we taking away from this test? What we see is that within controlled process environment, the combined absorption and volatilization losses are within linear relationship, and that the cupellation process, it was evident that the gold and silver behave differently, but with that's why we obtained the difference, the different factors, but it's just because of the nature of the elements, as we would know gold and silver properties. And through this test work, we were able then to establish these factors for both the gold and silver, showing no significant difference between when compared to other refineries, and also when compared to our historical method. So in conclusion, because we aimed to optimize our process, obviously for the gain of the customers, because the customers are the core of our business, we are still able to produce accurate results using the single factor, meaning we are still able to pay the customers fairly for the worth of the gold and silver that they bring to Rand Refinery. And for us as Rand Refinery, this speaks to metal accounting, in that we're able to keep reliable inventory management. And also, it also helps our smelter process, in that with the accurate results, they're able to optimize their smelter process, and this also impacts their recovery strategies. Okay, lastly, I'd like to thank Rand Refinery Executive for giving me the opportunity to come and present at this platform. Thank you, Terence, for attending with me, for your support. To my team, you can see we're a very small team, and it's difficult to do test work in between production demands, but their support goes a long way. I truly do recognize them. And the last part, which I'm sure you cannot wait for, is the Q&A. If you've got questions, please, let's engage.
I'm very happy about hear this very much experienced and reputed companies presentation. So we do have some questions, not questions. We are facing some issues, like we are a refinery running. So in a batch lab testing, so assume it 100 kilo of gold, the jewelry, 916 jewelry, like 22 karat jewelry. It's a refining. So after melting, we put in 4 batches, taking the pin sample. The pin sample, the 3 batch is getting correct report. The last batch getting its lower report. But in this 3 batch is not getting higher purity. The the last batch getting in lower purity. How it is happening? This is one thing. The other one more question. Mostly the refineries are facing, they are receiving the laboratory report from the outside because of a lot of laboratories are working in the market. So the people are bringing the gold, like Dore bars, along with the report. So we are testing, it is not matching with us, our report. Okay, we can, sometime we are adjusting with them, sometime we are getting the issue from the clients. But the problem is, some refineries are taking as considering their report, the outside laboratory report, how they can get that, solve that losses.
You're talking about a pin sample, so
Yes.
you're talking about a bullion sample, right?
Yes. Pin sample and outside laboratory.
Have you also considered other ways of sampling besides the pin? Maybe taking dips
Yeah, we
instead
are
of
taking
pins?
drill sample as well.
You do take dips as well?
Yes.
And how are you comparing with the dips?
This drill sample, okay, it's getting correct purity, but this pin sample always getting the last batch different purity getting.
That's why I'm questioning now the sampling.
Yeah, sampling.
It speaks to the sampling. Your results are as good as the sample. And because you are seeing this bias, it tells you maybe it might not be the right technique in terms of sampling.
No.
Hence, I'm asking if you should consider then taking dips instead of pins.
Instead of pins, this is jewelry actually.
Oh.
Okay, there is no any option for taking other.
Do you
samples.
participate in round robins?
Pardon?
Do you participate in round robins? How do you measure the performance of your lab, besides the fact that you're not comparing with your customers? How are you benchmarking?
So benchmarking actually, the client has bringing this jewelry that is actually a hallmarked one.
See, specific problems, I think we will stick to what has been presented. Your questions, you can take it offhand. A round of applause for Makhosazana, Sikhakhane, the Chief Assayer of Rand Refinery. It's a wealth of experience shared in a very short period of time.
We'll move on to the third speaker of this very fascinating session, Mr. Dinesh Singh. He's a Senior Technical Officer, CSIR National Physical Laboratory. He's going to talk about the quality assurance in gold testing through BNDs, right? So I'll just give a brief introduction about Mr. Dinesh Singh. Mr. Dinesh Singh is a Senior Technical Officer at CSIR National Physical Laboratory in New Delhi, India. He has extensive experience in contributing to the development and certification of Indian reference material, which is also called Bharatiya Nirdeshak Dravya, or BND in short, which are crucial for maintaining quality infrastructure and measurement standards traceable to the International System of Units, SI. As a part of the Emerging Reference Materials Group at the CSIR NPL, he focuses on developing reference materials for diverse fields, including petroleum products, pesticides, and precious metals. His work supports research industry and quality control efforts, helping India reduce dependence on imported standards while aligning with international metrology norms. Please join in welcoming Mr. Dinesh Singh.
Quality assurance in gold testing through BND. Basically, BND it is the Indian reference material, and it is Indian basically trademark. Like NIST, we purchase material SRM in the name of SRM, standard reference material. So it is the BND, the Bharatiya Nirdeshak Dravya, it is Hindi name. So it is Indian CRM, you can say like that. So outline of the presentation is about CSR NPL, what are BNDs and CRM, precious metals BND related to quality assurance in the gold testing, and some tips about the surcharge, trustworthy surcharge in the fire assay method. Because surcharge play a crucial role to check the purity of the materials, especially in the high purity gold. Because we know all using fire assay method, up to 0.1 ppt accuracy we can get the result. So error level in that range, it influence the result. So the surcharge should be very trustworthy. So CSIR NPL is our National Meteorological Institute. NMI is it is a custodian of national standard with the responsible realization, establishment, upgradation, maintenance, and dissemination at par with the international standard. And serve Indian industries, academia, and strategic sector. It helps them excel in the endeavor by providing apex calibration facilities. Metrology, basically we are talking about the traceability part. So in traceability, this is the traceability pyramid. As we go, this is the in top is SI units. Every standard, basically what are every reference material, these are the traceable to through a chain of comparison. Like we have some working standard, primary standard, national standard, and SI unit. All these should be traceable to in this way. So traceability will be like in that way. And when we are talking about gold purity, so we measure it in percentage or PPT, part per thousand, like that. So we are taking traceability, we are taking it through mass standard basically. We are measuring the, so in terms of traceability, we can like in fire assay method, what we are doing, we are taking one CRM and we are using balance. So by balance, it is traceability, we are taking mass standard and weighing also, and purity. So metrology, basically metrology is the basically science of measurement, and SI unit, without SI traceability, the knowledge of uncertainty measurement generated data, technical validity of result remains questionable at each stage of the calibration. The core objective of our NPL to develop and sustain internationally recognized measurement and calibration standard comparable to those other NMI across the globe, and to provide metrological service to industry and legal metrology sectors, to carry out multidisciplinary R&D, material science, engineering, and developing measurement standard for emerging technologies such as solar cell, quantum information processing, biomedical devices, etc., and to develop the reference materials and to train a large pool of young scientists, industry personnel, and skill in India University program. So these are some. This is the logo of BND, Bharatiya Dravya, registered trademark, and when we talk about the metrology, so it comes in the, you can consider in three ways: physical metrology, chemical metrology, biological metrology. Physical metrology means measuring the quantity, physical quantity, like mass, length, time, etc. But in chemical metrology, amount of substance in mole, mass fraction, mass concentration, like that only. And biological, also some level of biological quantity at that level. So when we talk about the calibration of the instrument, sometimes direct calibration we like when we are calibrating the balance. So we are directly calibrated the mass, basically mass comparison. Sometimes when it's not possible to direct calibration, so then reference materials are required. This is BND basically. This is a Indian CRM. Or CRM, it is a well characterized and having metrological traceable result with specified associated uncertainty and statement of metrological traceability also. Physics, yeah, this is a similar way. In chemistry, like units, mass fraction, and in physics, like meter, second, temperature, and like chemistry, concentration of lead in seawater, on any trace element in our high purity gold or silver also. These are comes under the chemistry basically. Why need the development of indigenous RM? So in order of million US dollar, we import, India imports CRM. So the major challenge is high import cost, time delay, non-availability of required CRM, and the quality assurance logistic as per the international requirement. So in 2007, we initiated this program, and NPL has started development of indigenous CRM to strengthen Making India Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative government of India. Indigenous CRM developed were trademarked by CSIR as a BND. So why NPL reference materials? They ensure that Indian industry operate measurement that are accurate, reliable and traceable to the international system SI units through India Apex methodology. And one more thing I want to tell you, traceability when most of generalized when we interact or we see also, even in some standard also, we see traceable to NIST, traceable to some NFI. It is not the correct way basically. Every standard or every measurement is traceable to the SI unit. It may be through anybody. So like it is traceable to SI unit through NMI, through NIST, through our NPL, but standard are traceable to the SI unit, not anybody basically. And CSIR NPL certification enable industry ranging from MSc to study sector and defense, healthcare, many industries. These certifications forms a backbone for quality assurance, regulatory compliance and international recognition in product. It empowers Indian enterprises to access high value global market with confidence, and NPL reference material are not just a technical necessity but must of the national priority. These are the sectors field which we are working basically in NPL. Precious metals BND, cement, building materials, more than 21 BNDs are already in market. High purity chemicals, water, elemental solution, pure element solution, except organic biology. Pharmaceutical BND are also we are starting work. Mechanical properties, hardness block, and for instrument calibration, XRD, lanthanum hexaboride, silicon powder for line and shaping position calibration, FTIR, polystyrene film, SAM-Cal array, it's for calibration for scanning electron microscope, and some gas mixture, and and this is the generalized way of how BND or CRM is produced. So starting selection material, preliminary characterization, and then material processing, homogeneity assessment. Up to here we can say it is a reference material, basically homogeneity and stability. If we can say, conduct it, then we can say it's a reference material, but for CRM we have to assign the value with uncertainty. So and then so this is a difference between RM and CRM. Over more than 160 BND are available in different sectors, cement, petroleum, pharmaceutical, precious metals. They help Indian product meet international quality benchmark, boosting export and consumer trust. Compliance needed for development of BND, as Pankaj sir already told, ki 17025 general requirement of testing laboratory 17034. This is the general requirement for competence of RMP, reference material producers, and this is the uncertainty establishment guideline, and one also this is a Eurochem guidelines, basically uncertainty measurement in analytical chemistry. So that one also, and these are the some other earlier these were the guide, basically ISO 33405. Earlier it was guide 35, which tells about the approach for characterization of assessment of homogeneity and stability, and 33401 this was the guide 31, content certificate level and gold BND. Actually gold testing is very crucial for its trade, critical for trades, hallmarking, regulatory compliance, error in assay, financial loss and disputes, Quality assurance ensure accuracy of measurement, comparability across labs and confidence in the results. Traceability, BND develops and provide direct traceability to the SI unit through MNI. This traceability is essential for regulatory compliance, product certification, global trade acceptance, and is vital for legal and commercial validation of hallmarking result. Accuracy, precision, and reproducible result when assaying gold purity. So these are the basically these BNDs are for only purity. Here we are giving only gold purity. So 99999, this is silver. Basically, if you are telling about the BND 4101 999, it means it has 999 PPT silver. We are also planning to work some trace element or other impurity, but right now these are the 916, 833, 750, 585, 958. These are the already are in the market. So quality assurance, the benefit for industry and metallurgy. Hallmarking center must meet strict standard set by the regulatory body like BIS, and CRM provide benchmark to verify that testing method are consistent and trustworthy. They help unify testing protocol across lab, industry, reduce dependence on import CRM and strengthen domestic quality infrastructure. It helps uphold consumer trust and support India's goal becoming global gold market. Reduce trade dispute and support legal metallurgy, align with international standards, support development of new testing technology, enhance India global standing in the precious metal metallurgy. So 3-4 years earlier we just develop our this facility. This is our fire assay lab and ICPOS lab. We also have XRF, but that is old one, so we are planning to procure new one. So and capability we have as per international or Indian standard as per IS 1418, 16901, 35 Australian standard, ISO 11426. All gold testing of different range of purity. Trustworthy surcharge basically. Why surcharge is so important? Especially in the high purity gold. When we talk about the traceability and most of the standard tell proof sample, they mention pure sample purity. If so two things are there. If purity is, we have CRM basically, fixed purity we have, and reference material. Using reference material we can get the trustworthy surcharge. When it comes about the traceability, so we should know the purity of that CRM also. So these are the basically 7 replicate of 39 gold sample. So this is the purity, and we use here 99998 proof sample. If we don't know about the purity of this proof gold, so what will happen? We apply correction factor using 999.9. These are the result and average, and standard deviation is here nearby 0.07 ppt. Here also, when we change the purity 492 to 498 in the correction factor, so almost 0.1 ppt increase. So this major difference to correct these, so for high purity gold testing, CRM are essential. So approximately 0.1 ppt difference, it's a huge difference in when we concern about the high purity gold testing. Even in lower grade also, it may influence what are the purity we are using in the proof sample. So for trustworthy surcharge, the surcharge among the replicates of the proof should be in very the difference should be very less. So the ratio of the silver to gold among the replicate, it should be optimized, and most of the standard tell about the 2.5 to 1, the ratio of silver to gold. Copper addition, cupellation temperature, it affects the loss, and proper oxidizing environment during cupellation, mechanical processing and uneven thickness of the flat, using block magnesia cupel instead of single cupel, high precision balance, purity of proof sample, so that correct correction factor, and reference material, material traceability, addition of copper. and silver and high purity. High purity gold we need to add silver and gold, sorry, silver or copper. So these are some literature result basically. When ratio of silver to gold 2.71 to 2. So in this case surcharge decrease and gold loss increase. When ratio are less than 2 to 1, surcharge increase. When ratio is greater than 3 to 1, it is very dissolution of the complicated basically to remove the silver, because silver have to be removed selectively, and so but most of the standard using 2.5 to 1. So it might be the optimized condition, basically most of them are using this one. Copper also, because we add copper, it increase the malleability of the beads, because when we are processing the bead after cupellation process, it may cracks or a lot of things may be there. So if beads is little bit malleable, it is easy to handle it. So why it increase the malleability basically? Copper, what copper does here? So basically copper, when during cupellation, when bead solidify in the cupellation process, what will happen? The dissolved oxygen will escape. So if copper is there, it will reduce the solubility of oxygen in the in gold and silver bead. So that's why copper, some result we saw in one sample we did not add copper, in one sample copper added. So the bead which we add in which we have add copper, it was very smooth surface. Without copper, it is very looks like brittle basically. So copper is it's mandatory to, but higher copper may influence the gold loss also. Higher due to the more gold absorbed by the cupel in the presence of higher proportion of the copper. So the difference in the composition of assay change the surcharge value. So when we are testing the high purity gold, so copper and silver we should try to fix same quantity in all the replicates, so to get the better result. Even effect of cupellation temperature also. Cupellation temperature also affect the surcharge. So one experiment we did about with the 49 pure gold. So we did cupellation at two different temperature, 1000 degree plus 120 and 1070. So cupellation loss, basically cupellation loss here it is the difference between the mass of the gold bead and what we taken earlier, gold and silver. So as temperature increase, gold loss also increase and surcharge also decreases. So this is basically well reported in literature. So we just try to check. So this is all from my side. Thanks. And any questions from?
By SPM, CIL and LPL are the same, the number?
SP?
India government basically.
India government meant that is CRM. Earlier it was BND. First batch it was BND. Now they are CRM.
So they are using this.
Now you are selling it directly or?
No, some RMP partner.
Actually, the BND certificate, it has a validity. Suppose we are using, we have bought 10 grams of gold and we have used it almost around 5 grams.
5 grams.
5 grams. And the 5 grams is balanced with us, but the expiry has been completed. So, is it justified, sir?
No, right now we are giving validity much higher basically. Earlier when it started, there is no, although high purity gold is well stable product, but right now we are giving up to 10 years.
I'd like to get this reply from and Refinery certificate. Does the CRM have a validity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
1 year, 2 years, when you are talking of 4-line CRM, does it get spoiled over period of time? Very expensive to have CRM, to consume CRM for every essay. How is it possible? That is what is being done in India to sell CRM.
Someone has to make business.
I'm curious, you had a definition of what reference material was. It just had to be homogeneous.
Yes.
But it doesn't have to have a value?
It may have, but not necessary.
Yeah, you have to have a concentration and an uncertainty if it's any use to you. Compared to a CRM, you may involve other laboratories to get that, but unless it has it has to be homogeneous, I agree, but you also have to have a concentration value and an uncertainty. Otherwise, it's not useful to you.
In RM.
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 Well, so CRM may be going an extra step by involving interlaboratory comparison, or is it because it's sort of you follow the ISO steps and becoming a reference material provider? What is the I'm curious about the difference.
CRM basically it's as per 17034.
Okay.
And other guides also. So CRM it's mandatory, and basically we are using word certified, na? So the value it is mandatory, but for RM it may have value, uncertainty it may have, but for RM it's as per definition it's not mandatory to give the value in RM, but CRM it's mandatory. Na?
That makes no sense.
If it is you are selling it as a reference material, value will be there. You need not to give actually the certified
certified value. Metrological traceability is not necessary.
But value will be there.
Metrological traceability is not mandatory there.
Yes, you can say it.
Yeah.
But value will definitely be there. So you are saying it as a reference.
Yeah, sir. Okay. Metrological traceability, it's not mandatory there. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, if there are no more questions, thank you so much, Mr. Dinesh Singh. Thank you. The last presenter is Mr. Chandan Rao. He is the Deputy Director of Hallmarking Department at Bureau of Indian Standard, BIS, as we all know it. Despite having an international conference, IEC, going on in this country, over 100 countries are represented. Despite the busy schedule, like Mr. Chandan Rao is here, he is going to talk about hallmarking of gold jewellery in India, regulatory perspective. A brief introduction, sir. Mr. Chandan Rao is a Deputy Director and Scientist C in the Hallmarking Department of the Bureau of Indian Standards, the national standards body of India, under the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution. With over 4 years of experience in hallmarking department, he plays a key role in implementation and regulation of hallmarking standards for gold and silver jewelry across India. His responsibilities include overseeing the adherence of Indian standard IS 15820, which governs the establishment and operation of assaying and hallmarking centers, ensuring quality, security and consumer protection in the precious metals market. Please join us in welcoming Mr. Chandan Rao.
Thank you so much, Vatsaji, for that sweet introduction. And a very warm good evening to one and all present over here. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me for this very fruitful and insightful sessions which preceded my session. So I'll just try to cover it up in 10 to 15 minutes. So the topic for today allotted to me is hallmarking of gold jewelry in India, regulatory framework. So basically, as sir introduced, I am from Bureau of Indian Standards. It is the body under Ministry of Consumer Affairs, and it is the national standards body of India. BIS ventured into the field of hallmarking in the year 2000. But having said that, BIS, earlier known as ISI, Indian Standards Institution, has already done its part in implementing quality standards for other products, and that started in the year 1947, the same year when India got its independence. So hallmarking has been one of the latest additions to the quality conscious effort of the government of India. So let us get into BIS hallmarking scheme. As I already mentioned, we started with the hallmarking scheme initially with the gold jewelry, before starting with silver, we started initially with gold jewelry in the year 2000. Then we expanded it to cover silver as well. Gold and silver both are the precious metals which as of date are being covered under hallmarking scheme of BIS. Internationally, palladium and platinum are also covered under hallmarking, but as of date, India covers only gold and silver. Although we have the provision in our act, in the BIS Act, we have the provisions to cover platinum and palladium as well. So it all started in the year 1999 when Reserve Bank of India's one committee, which you can see a standing committee on precious metals, identified Bureau of Indian Standards to take up the subject of hallmarking in India, because we were already taking care of the quality control and standard formulation for other products. So with that biodata, BIS was given the responsibility of taking care of standardization in the field of gold jewelry sector as well. Just for the timelines, if you can see, we started in the year 2000 in the month of April for gold jewelry, then followed by 2005 for silver jewelry. Then after that, after 10 years, in the year 2015, we implemented it for the gold bullion and coin. So basically, this was the refinery scheme which was introduced by BIS. Why was this introduced in 2015? So for that, if you can, like most of you would be aware that Ministry of Finance had rolled out a gold monetization scheme in the year 2015 to give a fillip to the gold which is present in the households, to bring it in under the circulation. So to support the gold monetization scheme of government, BIS started issuing licenses and certification to gold refineries. So that is how we also expanded and to cover gold bullions and coins. Then a significant milestone came in this journey where hallmarking of gold jewelry and gold artifacts was implemented on a mandatory basis, starting with obviously a few districts, 256 to be precise. And as of date, when we, as I speak, we have covered 373 districts of our country under mandatory hallmarking. The objectives of BIS hallmarking scheme are very clear. As we are under the administrative control of Ministry of Consumer Affairs, so the primary objective is to protect the consumer against the purchase of gold jewelry with lesser than declared purity. And obviously the larger picture is to make India as the leading gold market in the world by providing a equal platform to all the gold jewelers, silver jewelers, with the help of our recognized assaying and hallmarking centers. So this is how the scheme runs. I think most of you must be aware that the jewelers or the BIS registered jewelers, they don't have the self-marking rights with them. So it works in a like kind of a tripartite agreement where the jeweler manufactures the jewelry, but has to send the jewelry, in fact, to the BIS recognized assaying and hallmarking centers, who in turn carry out the assaying, and when the lot passes the IS 1418 mandated requirements, the assaying centers apply the hallmark on the jewelry, and then the jewelry is returned back to the jeweler. Then the jeweler is allowed to sell it to the consumer. So this is how the hallmarking scheme runs in a gist. A grant of license to refinery or mint according to BIS prescribed criteria. So as I was mentioning, in the year 2015, we started the licensing for certification for refineries, so that the gold bullion and the gold coins which are in circulation in the country can be quality controlled and certified under BIS. So in a nutshell, the hallmarking scheme covers gold jewelry and artifacts, silver jewelry and artifacts, and gold bullions and coins. As of date, silver bullion and silver coin is not yet covered under any of the BIS's hallmarking schemes. The grades in India which are permitted for hallmarking, you can see if I go from bottom to top, it starts with 9 carat. 9 carat is the latest addition. It was introduced in July 2025. So it is again currently running on a concurrent basis. 9 carat amounts to 375 parts per thousand, like the content of gold in the gold alloy. And then we have the remaining 6 grades like 14 carats, 18 carats, 20, 22, 23 and 24K S. S for the standard gold, 995 in PPT. And the tolerance, obviously there is no negative tolerance permitted on the gold content. However, when we do the market sample analysis, when we draw the market samples from the jewelers, the hallmark jewelry is permitted to have a negative tolerance of up to maximum 2 PPT. But that is for the case of retesting. But for the case of application of hallmark, there is strictly no negative tolerance permitted. If we see the grades of silver jewelry, which are covered under the Indian standard 2112, again we have 7 grades. Again, we had the revised version of 2112 came in this year, 2025, in which you can see 800, 835, 925, 958, 970, 990 and 999 grades of gold jewelry are permitted for hallmarking in case of silver. I'll not go into the details. It is just about how BIS carries out the certification of jewelers as well as assaying and hallmarking centers. I'll directly jump into the implementation of mandatory hallmarking. You can see the first line says the mandatory hallmarking order was issued on 15th January 2020, but the efforts and consultation had started way back. I think it was in the year 2007 when the talks for making hallmarking mandatory in the country had started. But due to the insufficient infrastructure at that time, as far as the testing centers and hallmarking centers are concerned, and the referral assay labs of BIS which could do the market sample testing. So due to the lack of sufficient infrastructure, the plan got delayed. And then it was finally implemented in 2021, 23rd of June 2021. And you can see the reasons for extension. And that was the time when the whole world was suffering, was facing the difficult COVID situation. So that was again a very difficult time for the jewelers to offload their old marked stocks or unhallmarked stocks. So with the permission of Government of India, an expert committee was formed, and the committee deliberated at lengths and based on a common consensus and some SOPs and guidelines which were later on formulated for ease of operation. The mandatory hallmarking was rolled out in 2021 across 256 districts initially. These districts were those which had at least one assaying and hallmarking center. So to ensure sufficient infrastructure, we made it a point that only those districts which have the infrastructure would be covered under mandatory hallmarking. So by that logic, we have come to the 5th phase of this phased manner extension, in which as of date, we have 373 districts covered. So this is just the timeline or sequence of events. Obviously, when you implement something as large as mandatory hallmarking, you need to take care of all the categories of industries and all the kinds of jewelry, all the concerns of the stakeholders. So based on that, we had prepared some of the exemptions which were meant to be excluded from this mandatory hallmarking order. Obviously, export was kept as an exemption, but articles weighing less than 2 grams again were exempted. So some of these exemptions were inspired from the Birmingham Act, UK Act. Even they had given exemptions. So on those parallel lines, we kept some of these exemptions because anyways, marking any jewelry less than 2 grams was a physically difficult or a challenging method, or something which is in course of consignment from outside India and goes directly to the assaying and hallmarking center. Obviously, that is exempted. So in that way, we have provided some of the exemptions. You can see for medical purposes, dental, veterinary, scientific or industrial purposes, or any article of gold, thread, incomplete articles, or something which is not substantially complete. Then gold bullion was exempted because we are talking strictly about gold jewelry and gold artifacts, which the consumers directly wear. Export and re-import, again, that is exempted. So this, if you see special categories of jewelry, again, that was a result of lengthier discussions in the expert committee. So we came across some of these challenges from our stakeholders, and that was addressed suitably in this exemption category. Again, gold jewelers having an annual turnover of less than or up to rupees 40 lakh per annum. So again, that dates back to 2021. I don't know whether that really is applicable as of date. Gold watch and fountain pen, again, these 2 categories were exempted. So this is just an overview of progress of hallmarking scheme. When we started, it was started in 2000, and at that time we had hardly 8 AHCs. We have some of the AHCs who had started at that time in this room, so we are very they have supported this scheme for a very long time. We had 180 jewelers, 8 AHCs, and we used to do in thousands, not in lakhs or crores. We are doing hallmarking right now in each month we are able to hallmark around 12 to 14 crores of gold jewelry. But when we started, you can see in the first year we had done 93,000. So that is a very sweet journey. And this is the progress for the last 10 years. I have deliberately tried to make two halves in this chart. The blue ones, they symbolize the period before mandatory hallmarking was implemented, followed by a dashed line, dashed vertical line. And after that, the orange area or the orange half represents the phase when hallmarking, after the hallmarking was made mandatory. So if you see after 2021, there is a significant jump in the number of jewelers who got registered with BIS and the number of assaying and hallmarking centers. So the line curve, if you see, that represents the number of assaying and hallmarking centers. And if you see the vertical bar graph, that is the representation of number of jewelers. So when you take into consideration the milestone of mandatory hallmarking, you can realize or you can appreciate the fact that with its implementation, more and more jewelers got registered with BIS, and as a result, the consumers got access to more and more quality or hallmarked gold jewelry. Similarly, when we look at the number of articles which got hallmarked in the last 10 years, this is again a trend where the dashed line in the middle, in somewhere around 2021, represents the milestone of mandatory hallmarking. So prior to that, I think we had hallmarked around 4.49 crores per year. That was the highest for the last, let us say, 10 to 15 years. But if you see after mandatory hallmarking, we have been able to reach up to 14.96 crores. That was in the year 2023. So going by that trend, even this year, I think we should be able to reach somewhere around 12 to 13 crores. And just last few slides, the digitization effort. So any scheme which runs needs the support of IT tools and automation, digitization, these kind of initiatives, they support a lot. So for that reason, we had started with the digitization of the workflow of AHCs. By that, what I mean is, for the last, when we started in 2000, the assaying and hallmarking, everything used to happen manually. Obviously, it also happens manually now, but the process of record making and traceability, all those things were introduced by the help of a portal. BIS launched a portal wherein the AHCs could undertake all the activities, starting from receiving the jewelry from jeweler to performing the X-ray, XRF analysis, sampling, fire assay, then all the processes such as issuing the delivery voucher, laser marking, all those processes were tracked through the portal, and the portal had the database of each and every step, each and every process with its timestamp. That was an effort to improve the traceability in the market and to give the consumers a right to purchase the right quality gold jewelry. So for that reason, BIS also introduced a BIS Care mobile application that is for the consumers. Whenever they purchase a gold jewelry, the gold jewelry, after 2021, every gold jewelry comes with a unique HUID. So any consumer can enter that HUID number on that app, and he will be able to get the details of the jeweler, details of the AHC, the article type, what is its purity, what is the name of the article. So that was just a consumer protection and encouragement tool. Similarly, for silver and gold, we have introduced the portal. The portal was launched for silver similar to that of gold very recently in 1st of September 2025. And for the gold jewelry of 9K grade, provision has been made in the portal. It is just that the guidelines for that are under preparation and should be issued very soon. And this is how we monitor our scheme. We do market surveillances, we do surprise audits, and we collect samples from the jewelers. We collect the hallmarked samples and we get it tested at our own BIS labs. Based on the performance or based on the results of that labs, we take actions as stipulated in the regulations. For a data purpose, in the last year, we had collected somewhere around 36,945 samples from the BIS registered jewelers under the market surveillance program. And the results were very encouraging. More than 90% of the samples were found to be passing. If you see this, we have as of date 64 BIS licensed refineries, and this the color yellow represents the states which have these licensed refineries. So this is just a state-wise breakup, which state has which count of refineries. And our scheme says that the refiner himself, who manufactures, or I must say, who refines the gold bullion and gold coin, has the self-marking rights. Unlike the other scheme where the jeweler does not have the marking right, he has to send it to a assaying center. But in the case of gold refiner, a gold refiner can by himself refine and mark the gold bullion and coin as per the BIS marking regulations. This covers everything in a nutshell, and whatever doubts or whatever queries you have, you can bring it up. Thank you.
Weight figure? Yeah, sorry. Can you be the weight of the hallmark jewelry every year or approximately?
We have it, but we don't show in the public domain. We have it with us.
Can you just mention some idea?
Yeah, like if I talk about the year 2023, 2024, that time we had around 1200 tons. So for the latest year, I will have to check how much, but we have been able to reach around 1200 tons per year, yes, on an average.
1200 tons of gold hallmarked in 1 year, 2023-24. A round of applause for BIS, Bureau of Indian Standards.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes. You have one question, yes.
Thank you. I will rephrase the question once again. So one is that out of 14 crore articles being sold, 14 crore, you have tested 33,000, I'm saying only.
Those are market samples, right?
So that is your number.
Yeah, yeah.
So what is the standard? And then you are saying that 90% passed the test. So what happened for those who did not pass the test? Is it a public report? Thirdly, does CAG does audit of BIS? And is there any report in the public domain of the functioning of BIS itself and of the hallmarking center to bring more transparency?
Yes, to address your first question, we hallmark gold jewelry every year. We, in the sense, the gold assaying and hallmarking centers who work on our behalf, they hallmark around 14 crores, 13 crores now that hallmarking has been made mandatory. But it's not practically possible for BIS to draw each and every 14 crore or 13 crore. That is like completely impractical. What hallmarking is being done is for the end consumer to purchase. What BIS's role comes is that the hallmarking which the assaying and hallmarking centers are doing, whether those are being done correctly or not. So to ensure that, we are entering into it's a two-pronged approach. One is to directly do the market surveillance of the assaying center by deploying your manpower of BIS.
No, that I've understood. So
second is for the collection of samples which are already
I've
hallmarked.
understood. No, this you have already said. My question was once again same, that 33,000 out of 14 crore is less than 0.3%. 1% is 14 lakhs. 1% is 14 lakh.
That's fine.
So what is the percentage globally? What action do you take against the hallmarking center which are non-compliant? Is that report in public domain? So I'm just asking that question.
First of all, it's not there in public domain, but you have the what is available in public domain is the actions which are stipulated against the jewelers as well as the assaying and hallmarking centers.
So
rest assured, the actions which are there stipulated in the Act, rules and regulations are being strictly followed by BIS.
No, I did not. You are not answering my question. How does public come to know that whether this hallmarking center has been consistently recalcitrant culprit?
See, public has no job in getting into that. Public needs to know whether one center is operative or is under suspension. That's it. When it's under suspension, we have the adequate traceability. We have the portal. Any consumer who wants to see whether a center is operative can go and enter the center's name, address, or recognition number. He'll be able to get to know the status of that. If it is operative, it's well and good. If it is not operative, that may be under suspension or deferment. Or if it is cancelled, then obviously that gets rejected from our list. So that is there for the consumer. Consumer needs to know whether it is operative or not. He need not know what is the past performance. He did not know what is the failure percentage. That's immaterial. You don't need to confuse the consumer.
So that entire accountability rests with BIS, right?
Yes, yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you. Yes.
A question came up during this morning's talk about XRF. I suggested that since a small XRF only interacts with a very small mass of jewelry, I suggest it was accepted that we should, or it was suggested that we take multiple measurements on the same piece.
Exactly.
And the question was, how many replicate determinations on the same piece does BSI recommend?
Actually, we have a different standards making body for that, standards making department for that. I am representing today the policy making part. What the question which you have asked, it is there is one Indian standard on XRF which has been made by BIS. So there I think it is mentioned a minimum of 3 positions should be captured for a single article when you are doing XRF. But that standard as of date is not implemented. That is there. But as a general practice, as a policy making person, what we suggest to the EHCs is for every article, at least do 3 XRF readings and at 3 different places. But if it is a complicated article, then that becomes subjective. Like you cannot use it as a rule of thumb for every article. Some articles which may have more soldering points, more areas where you find that there are a lot of joints, or areas which are prone to foreign alloying elements infringement. So for that, based on the competence of the operator or based on the competence of the XRF personnel, he may need to increase it from 3 to maybe 5, or it can also go up to 10. So the portal which we have prepared, we have allowed the XRF personnel to take as many number of XRF readings of that article as he may like. It is up to him. So we have not restricted to a number.
But you have a minimum of 3.
That we have recommended as a good practice, good lab practice.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
One thing I would like to add.
Yes, sir.
For the Indian hallmarking scheme, XRF is not used for quantification of the metal content.
Exactly.
It is used only for the detection of prohibited elements. So the quantification of gold is done by fire assay method.
Fire assay, yeah.
Only for sampling and fire assay.
Thank you, sir, for that clarification.
I think all the questions are addressed. Thank you very much, Mr. Chandan Rao. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's time for us to thank all the 4 excellent speakers to do us the honor. May I request Mr. Harsha Jadmera, who is the National Secretary of Association of Gold Refiners and Mint. This is the only association in this country representing refiners and mint, to come on stage to give away our token of appreciation. Please come in the center, sir.